everyone, welcome back to the No Cap Space. Tyler and Andrew holding it down here for you. Even though it's not a game day, even though it's not a live, we couldn't leave you stranded without some No Cap content during March. As our run, day 72, get your Mr. Krabs bell out.
Day 50.
Oh my God. But I mean, this is the best time of year, and so we're gonna keep talking about it because it's so much fun. Nothing compares to March Madness. And speaking of best time of year, it's also the best time of year for you to get some home field merch. Use the code NOCAP15 to get 15% off your first purchase. No Cap Space WBB collection is also down below in the description. Every piece of women's basketball merch on the home field site, all in one place for you at the No Cap Space collection. Andrew, sexy cities only. We talked about Birmingham, Spokane next.
Even sexier.
I mean, come on now, the sexiest even. So you look at these two regionals. Me personally, I'm more excited about this regional. Maybe a little biased, maybe not. But I just want to start on the top of the bracket. And we'll go through these games and everything. Starting off, number 1 overall seed, UCLA, Ole Miss. I mean, look, I'll never put Ole Miss's ability to muck up a game and get teams off their game in their own right. I'll never put that I won't take that for granted against any team. But obviously, UCLA is a very good basketball team and our number 1 seed for good reason. Your read on this game and the maybe the best route for Ole Miss to take in this to try and pull off this major upset.
Well, in every game except the South Carolina matchup, Ole Miss has been pretty close with everyone. They've been within 10 in most of their losses. And a big part of that is because for the first time this year, they've got legit offensive options. They have KK Deans. They have Madison Scott, Kennedy Todd Williams, Sarah Chinu, Star Jacobs. Like, they are deep in the scoring department, even if the averages and the counting stats don't really match up with it. But they can score when you need it. Like, they have a half decent offense this year, which has not really been the case in prior seasons with them. So I think the fact that they can beat you in the front court and the back court actually is it's a reason they're here. You know, it's a reason they were able to outlast Baylor in Waco, mind you, and get out to the Sweet 16. I think it is a totally different ball game when you're facing Lauren Betts and facing this UCLA team who honestly has looked pretty good this tournament. I mean, it is nothing to sneeze at to beat Richmond by 17. That game was close at the half, obviously, but the fact that they were able to go on such a substantial third quarter run, that's what champions do. I think we've seen time and time again in this tournament in past years and even this season where we have some tight halftime scores and then in the third quarter, you know, the halftime adjustments come, the nerves settle, the wheat really separates from the chaff there. And I think that's what UCLA has done the same way South Carolina did against Indiana, for instance. There's going to be a physicality to this game. You know, Ole Miss is going to bring the SEC style, which is, you know, athleticism on the perimeter and a lot of physicality in the interior. That's how they win. It's why they win in March, right? It's why the conference does well in March. And you know, UCLA, while affixed the label of Big Ten, they still play like a Pac-12 team. You know, they still have a really centerpiece dominant big. They still have really good guards and wings. I don't know if they can out-athlete Ole Miss, but they have the better talent floor than Ole Miss does. I bet this is going to be close. I think UCLA is going to get a benefit of being on the West Coast here. Spokane is not Seattle or any of these easier places to travel. This is not the advantage for them the way Birmingham might be for South Carolina, right? Like this is a remote location. I don't know how many more times, given the current popularity, we're going to see a regional back in Spokane again. But I really do think UCLA's got the better personnel here, and I think they're battle tested. This is not a team that fades against programs that are try to outmuscle them. And beating USC in that conference tournament final really felt like the moment where they found the edge in the attitude. Because in the past 2 losses before that to the women of Troy, it looked like they got sunned a little bit, you know, and in the final they didn't. And I think that's the proverbial monkey off the back that you need to win in March, is to be able to throw punches back figuratively and metaphorically And Ole Miss is going to hit them. So I like UCLA here. I think this game is within 10, but I like Ole Miss too. I think a different draw, and maybe I'm feeling a little different about this game, but I mean, UCLA is my national champion pick, so I got to ride with them till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I do think, referencing kind of the trio of USC matches, I think the importance of finding their edge is so massive in a matchup like this one, because when I think back to those first two USC games, a big way of them stopping Lauren Betts was the pressure on the ball on the perimeter. And so, like, I fully expect that you see that same level of kind of pressure on your guards on the outside of Lauren Betts, trying just to get the ball into Lauren Betts. It's not even about really stopping the perimeter from scoring as much as it could be just about stopping the ball from getting inside to Lauren. So I think it's pivotal that edge that they found against USC is an edge that sticks around, and that, you know, it wasn't just because, oh, it's the rival game, oh, it's revenge game, oh, it's big, and I trust that. I trust that edge that it's going to stay. But that has to be there. And if it's not, that's where, to me, you know, if UCLA gets pushed off balance a little bit, how do they get back on? And because I think in those USC games, once they got pushed off balance, they never really got back on in the first two. And then I don't think they really let themselves get off balance in the third. And so keeping that edge that they had in that feels pivotal on this one. But I think ultimately, I mean, UCLA is just so talented and so deep that I still trust them to win this game. And but I wouldn't, again, to your point, if it's a close one, if it's a single digit game, like, I don't think that's a diss on UCLA at all. I think that's what Ole Miss does in March. And so I'm pretty excited for that one. But I'm not gonna lie, looking at this top part of the bracket, that LSU NC State matchup is talking to me. It's the Green Goblin mask of this upper bracket, because I think going into this tournament, for different reasons, we both these teams, we didn't know what version are we getting. For LSU, it was more so the injuries and seeing, okay, how does Flau'jae look? How does Anissa look? Obviously, they were in boots before the tournament. Look pretty damn good so far. And then you add in a piece. If they get a fourth piece, this has kind of been my thing with LSU this whole season, is anytime they can get a fourth player to step up, like Samaya Smith did against Florida State. It's been Kaylin Gilbert a lot throughout this season. Whenever they get a fourth player, not many people are matching the depth of production at high levels that LSU can have, right? But then you look at NC State, and when you go 15 to 30 from three, now, do you expect that every game? No. But that's the potential of what NC State can do. They can beat anybody because of the potential of their perimeter scoring. So, like, I think we're getting both these teams now maybe at their best, potentially, you know, that we've seen them at this season, coming off these, like, specifically these last two matchups. So give me the read. What is your read on this one?
Is this a top 3 guard matchup of the year?
I think it probably is. Perimeter play. Like, I don't know if there's two teams that we've seen match up that are just, like, so talented on the perimeter. Like, it's going to be some real deal. Like,
yeah, man, like Zoe, Sanaya, Isaiah James against Flau'jae, Michaela Williams, Kaylin Gilbert. Throw in a wing. You know, you could argue Rivers is a wing for NC State, but then you throw in, Anissa Morrow. You add in Madison Hayes. Honestly, this low key might end up being one of the best games on the slate.
It would not surprise me at all.
Yeah. This to me feels like the Isaiah James draft lottery game. Like, if she cooks, I would not be surprised if some people start going,
maybe.
Why not Isaiah James?
Yeah. Especially with AZ staying in the, you're kind of looking like for the perimeter, just kind of bucket getter shooter. Like, there's now even more of a need for that in the draft right now.
Totally. And she can distribute too. You know, I think that's another big piece of this. I think Samaya Smith might end up being like the LaDasia Williams of this for LSU. I can see it. I know UCLA probably wants LSU because I bet they want the revenge matchup for last year's Sweet 16. But even still, dude, Samaya Smith had such a good game. It was really reminiscent of how LaDasia Williams double-double LSU beat Iowa. Not the same height, not the same player, but did the same stuff.
Just production-wise,
Production-wise, offensive rebounds, boards on the other end, and made the bunnies when she got the chances to make them highly efficient in the paint. If she has another game like this, man, I mean, I don't know what you're going to do. I'm fascinated by what NC State does with Tilda Trigger. their 6'6" Finnish freshman. She's been a big piece in big games for them, and she's got 4 inches on Samaya Smith.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, this is a freshman in a massive game against a team that really inherits Kim Mulkey's edge. You know, for whatever critiques you want to levy on Kim Mulkey, and there are many, you know, but there is no doubt that Kim Mulkey as a coach is special at being able to instill this swagger that she has into her kids. She has LSU and always has had LSU play with all of this belief.
Yeah.
And is a 6'6" freshman who's new to this stage going to be able to find that within herself, right? I mean, the guards for NC State have it. They went to a Final Four last year. Like, they're built for this. They know what they're going to do. They know how to get big shots. They know how to win in these moments, but it's the players on the fringes that are the players that make or break your ability to win games like these. So she and Samaya Smith are my 2 X factors. But low key, man, I'm ready. Maybe even a high key. I'm ready for the fireworks at the backcourts here. It just feels like
I want to see it.
It feels like band for band, M for M with these 2 teams. Like Flauget against Azai is going to be incredible. I bet they're going to throw Rivers on Anissa Morrow. Michaela Williams and Kaylin Gilbert are built for big shots. They have the gene of like, oh, this is a bucket that's going to galvanize the people watching. I'm going to go get this.
I'm going to go get, There's really nothing you can do about it. Like, some of the buckets that they've hit so far this season, what makes sense?
That's an intangible concept, too, with players. I think some players just have an innate ability to understand a basket at this current moment is important for the momentum of the game. And I know that there's some people that don't believe momentum is a thing. I'm one of the people that do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially at the college age, I think in the pros, your ability to mentally lock in even on like hard runs is a little different. But I think kids, for all intents and purposes, I think that stuff still matters. And LSU has players that know innately how to hit the shots that break your back.
Yeah.
You know, and NC State does too, you know, to a certain degree. But if we're lining up, and again, these are the margins that you decide these games on, right? If we line up who has hit big shots in the final seconds of games versus sets and ATOs that haven't resulted in game-winning baskets, LSU's got the edge in like those clutch plays within 10 seconds on the clock. So I'm fascinated by this. I think this is going to be a phenomenal game. And I think whoever wins, I think if NC State wins, UCLA's got an easier path, frankly, just because of the upfront mismatch. But I sort of want UCLA LSU because it feels like not only is there a revenge game component of that and the mess that we love, UCLA has always, under Corey Close, gotten shit for not being tough enough. And, you know, again, going back to their win over USC, it felt like they unlocked a toughness element.
Yeah.
Kim Mulkey toughness and Dawn Staley toughness for that matter, because Dawn does the same with her South Carolina teams. They're extremely mentally tough.
Yeah.
You beat this LSU team in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four, Corey's first ever at UCLA. You're beating the toughness allegations in a way that would make me feel confident that you can do the same against South Carolina again. And right now, the way South Carolina is playing, that's not a certain proposition in the slightest. They look like the best team in the tournament right now, them and UConn both. So I love this matchup. I want to see LSU win, but I wouldn't complain if NC State did. I think I'm just here to see some good ball, and I think we're going to get it.
Yeah, no, where I'm at with this one is like I want to see the perimeter players hoop. That's priority number one. Like I don't care if this game is 100 to 102. Like let's hoop. Now I don't think that's gonna be the way this game goes, but like if that's the way it went, I'd be cool. But for me, when I look at LSU, I'm like, okay, if the perimeters are even, like if you want to call it that, you go to the next layer, and one team has Anissa Morrow, and the other team does it. And so like I lean towards LSU just because like I think there's just less question marks and there's just more certainty about what this team is in that way. But I mean, again, NC State on any day can beat anyone when you have perimeter shooting like that. So I can't wait. Like this, this is probably like might be my favorite game, like my favorite matchup of the whole Sweet 16 is
It'll
that
be fun.
Continuing on, well, this matchup isn't what we expected it to be at all, and it sucks. But there's still a matchup to be played against USC and Kansas State, and I feel like everyone's obviously USC is a worse team without JuJu Watkins. However, Kiki Iriafen is still her, and I think we got to see that in the Mississippi State game, the way that she turned up in that game and the way she led that team in that game. But Kansas State, in their own right, as USC has gotten less healthy, Kansas State brought Ayoko Lee back, and she looks fantastic. And so USC has the freshmen. They have the number one recruiting class coming in this year, and I think they've produced very well. But obviously, this is a very different USC team without JuJu Watkins, and a very, very good Kansas State team coming off a massive win against Kentucky on the road. I mean, take us to where your thoughts are. Like, do you favor Kansas State in this matchup now without JuJu?
No. And the reason I say this is twofold. One, I think Lindsey Gottlieb has gotten a lot of unnecessary shit this year as a coach. She's made a Final Four before. Like, she's done this with Cal. It's not easy to go to a Final Four with Cal. It's not easy to win at Cal, you know? And she did it with a centerpiece big and a dynamic guard. It was Laisha Clarendon and it was Christina Nigwe. And it makes me wonder, how much can you reevaluate and reconfigure your offense in 4 days?
Right.
Because right now, everything to this point has been this read and react route tree kind of offense that you can only really run because JuJu is a supercomputer mentally. You're able to do it and put the ball in her hands because you have a player that is so good and her processing speed is so fast that she is able to get you through read 1, read 2, read 3 in 5 seconds or less, like an NFL quarterback does. Now, like, I bet they put some plays in. I bet you're going to see them look to the sideline a lot more for sets from Lindsay. And we're going to see much more Kiki Iriafen. And I do wonder, are we about to see the resurgence come? Because
this is what I'm here for. Let's talk about this because this is where I'm at with it.
This is the one thing that I think people really forget. This is a player who models her game and her look off Asia Wilson.
And it reflects very greatly. Like very, very good.
Who outside of her three is an efficient and effective shooter. She has Asia's elbow game from the mid-range. She has the inside scoring ability, the ability to run in transition, post up, good array of post moves, plays well on the defensive end. If I'm Kansas State, the first thing I'm doing is sending Ayoko Lee straight at her in the post and try to get her into foul trouble.
Absolutely.
Because if you get her into foul trouble, then it's a different ball game. But USC's advantage here is you can stick Rhea Marshall on.
Yeah, which I fully expect. Yeah.
Which is a leaper, an athlete, taller than Kiki. And now you have a matchup disparity where you got to maybe throw Tamira Poindexter out there on Kiki. And as amazing as Tamira has been this whole year, that it's a different type of player. So I'm really fascinated by whether or not we end up getting like 30-plus point Kiki Iriafen again.
Yeah.
And if this steady diet of her reminds people why she is a locked and loaded WNBA lottery pick, a consensus top 3 pick. She's fallen in some of these draft boards, and I think it's crazy because even in a down year, she's averaging like 18 and 10.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of what people are looking at with regard to her is eye test stuff, and that's fair. She doesn't look all that great in the way that we thought that she would be, in the way that this would go. But that does not negate her ability and talent as a player. Plus, she's been made, to be Robin a little bit this year. That girl's Batman, dog, or Batwoman, I guess. Like she is 1A. Yeah. That's the type of player she can be. So I'm really fascinated in if this whole week in her mind it's Kiki's time.
Yeah.
And it can be. You can win a lot of games with her, and then you factor in Avery Howell, Deadeye 3-point shooter. Kaylee Heckel, who is not at all scared of this moment.
No.
Talia von Oelhoffen, who's been to an Elite Eight already and knows how to win. I mean, look, for all the arrows Talia gets, she ran and controlled an Oregon State offense that beat Notre Dame in the Sweet 16 last year. And beat Hannah Hidalgo and Sonia Citrin and that whole crew. Like, she's been here. She knows what is required in the moment. And they have a lot. They're a little thin in the front court. And JuJu, I think where you miss JuJu more, frankly, is on the defensive.
I completely agree. Yep.
You now have to really count on a generational defensive performance from Kennedy Smith, because you're going to have to throw someone on Serena Sundell. And that was definitely going to be JuJu's assignment, I think, just in terms of size and length and her scoring ability and how much she facilitates that K-State offense. So I think the challenge is going to be stopping K-State and how you do it. But it wouldn't shock me, dog, if we get the Kiki Iriafen resurgence game and people remember exactly why she was the number one player in the transfer portal and everybody wanted her last summer.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, the theme of Kiki's career in March has been stepping up when someone goes down. Again, it was different last year because Cameron Brink in foul trouble. But what she do against Iowa State? Popped off. What she do against Mississippi State? Popped off. That has been the consistent theme. So and to see it, the switch flip in that Mississippi State game so easily for her, and to become the leader. I mean, the way and it was for the first time this season, to be quite honest, I feel like Kiki was actually having fun playing in that Mississippi State, being the lead, that's kind of the energy. I think she's had fun moments and everything, but that was the freest that she had been able to play. And so I'm interested in what that kind of looks like in a game like this. But again, Kansas State's so good. And I agree with you that I worry more about the defensive end than anything, but because I think about the obvious comparison when you think about Ayoka Lee is okay, what they do against Lauren Betts and the size there. And I think it's interesting because I think Kansas State has probably more pure shooting surrounding Ayoka Lee. And they also, I think UCLA is a better team than Kansas State. I do think Kansas State poses a unique challenge because they can switch modes. They can switch out of playing through Ayoka Lee because they've had to over the course of her career, they've had to play without her. And so if in those non-Ayoka Lee minutes, if they find different exploits, they can win this game without a major Ayoka Lee game. And so that's kind of what intrigues me as well. And this is while UCLA, they have a lot more talent, I feel and just better talent top to bottom, but not as many modes they can switch into maybe compared to Kansas State.
Are you referring to a potential next round, a potential Final Four matchup with UCLA? Or
I'm just saying from a USC perspective of how they handle in comparison, just because of pure size.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So just in a sense of we saw how they handled Lauren Betts, and I don't think you can't do it because JuJu Watkins isn't on the court with the way that she was crashing down on Lauren Betts, and I think Lauren Betts is a more versatile and mobile big than Ayoka Lee in comparison to passing out of double teams and whatnot as well. So it's not a 1-for-1 likeness by any means, but immediately that's just where your head goes just because of the size aspect of it. And I do think it's interesting how Kansas State can switch modes if Ayoka Lee isn't producing that away, or if she gets in foul trouble, whatever that might be. But I'm excited for the potential Kiki run here that we get. I mean, we've obviously had Kiki on several times, major fans of her game. And to your point, I think it's been forgotten just how good of a player Kiki is. And so it's no the silver lining. No, none of that. Cause this sucks, but you have to keep playing the games. Right. And that is what the most obvious kind of direction of this going in for USC is. Kiki, essentially, what are you prepared to do about it? Along with the freshmen and Talia and whatnot. So I'm excited for this one. I think this could be a game where Kansas State puts themselves on the map as a legitimate deep run team in this tournament that maybe people hadn't expected. Being from the Big 12, not hosting, I don't feel like obviously without Ayoka Lee for a large majority of the season, I think there's a lot of respect that can be headed their way that isn't there right now that already should be, because they're a very, very, very good, versatile two-way team that can cause a lot of problems they can cause problems with JuJu, frankly. And obviously not without that. Well, let's get to the best matchup.
This has been okay.
Yeah.
Top 3 greatest weeks as a Sooner
Oh my
fan?
God. Look, man, I put this in the chat, but like this was like Red River football win caliber of a week. For me, just as like an Oklahoma Sooners sports fan,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, first off, you beat out Texas for Aaliyah Chavez, and the jokes that were flying on Twitter, like, so like, not only did we win, but Texas lost. So like, from a pure biased fan perspective, like there's absolutely no journalism going on in this moment right now. But like, so that was pretty awesome. But no, I mean, to go to the first Sweet 16 under Jenny Baranczyk, the first one since 2013, if I believe was the last time. Like, I mean, this is I'm not putting any expectation at all, honestly, from here on out. Like, not to say we're playing with house money, because this is a very good Oklahoma team, but obviously we know who's standing across the court in UConn, you know. So like, I'm not putting any expectations, but I do feel like there's legitimate lanes for Oklahoma to win this ball game. And that's what excites me about this matchup potentially. And even though it's going to take one of Oklahoma's best games, but I'll tell you right now, after seeing some horrendous March Madness losses in the past couple years, like I'll never forget Notre Dame coming in to the LNC as the 4-5 and just blowing out Oklahoma. Yes, just absolutely cooking them. And then, you know, you go to UCLA 2 years ago. Or whatever it was. Like, it's just bad. Like, these losses have happened, right? And it felt like we weren't prepared in those games a lot of times. Like, there was always something very obvious. I was like, damn, like, how did we let that happen? That didn't happen this weekend. And that's a different vibe. And so from that aspect, I'm encouraged. But that's UConn as well. So I think it's an interesting matchup, though. Honestly, I'll let you give your thoughts, and then I'll bounce off you on the Oklahoma perspective here.
Yeah, I'll keep it short so you can get a little bit more in the ISO. Look, man, the difference between Oklahoma getting blown out in past years and Oklahoma now is Reagan Beers. Yeah. And as it happens, you have a battle-tested center taking on a freshman. And as good as Sarah Strong is, this is a matchup Reagan Beers can win. You know, she's been here. She's done this. She knows it. She's competed against, you know, the best bigs in the country, in the Pac-12, in the SEC. Like, this is a battle-tested center that you have, who is, you know, should have been an All-American first or second team easily.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's the only reason I don't write off Oklahoma in this.
Yeah.
Because the guards, we've always known the guards at Oklahoma are good. You know, Jenny Baranczyk gets good guards. It's always been, do you have a dominant
zero size
center that can save you in a jam and also stabilize you defensively? Reagan Beers has shown that. She showed it in the last round. I mean, Iowa, as you know, that was another situation to me. And granted, you know, someone like Ava Hayden is a very different player than Sarah Strong. But I mean, dude,
there was levels to it.
Hayden's day hell. She made Hannah Stolke's day difficult, and she did that without even contributing majorly on the offensive side. You know, she had 11 and 13. I would expect to see a lot of the defensive pressure go towards her. And so she's going to need to be able to have that vision and keep the ball high to be able to get it back out. Shooters got to hit shots. Yeah. But the advantage here is, unlike past years, you're not playing a Sweet 16 in Albany. You know, this is not going to be this is not the same as playing South Carolina and Birmingham. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to be, like, that's a de facto road game for some of these teams. Now, in their bracket, like Duke and UNC, for instance, like, they'll have people that are able to travel from Charlotte or from the Research Triangle to go down there and be able to do it, get in the car and drive. But in this situation, I mean, the biggest beef with Albany was always that it was just, you know, Stores North, and every team that went in there was still having to play de facto road games against UConn. Yeah, they're going to have fans out there, but I mean, that's the complete opposite side of the country in a place that is hard to travel to, even, or, you know, during the best of times. And so there's not a crowd thing here. You know, this feels like if you want a shot to beat UConn, this is one of the best chances you're going to get. You know, the Oklahoma team is currently constructed. Now, ESPN did give UConn a shitload of bulletin board material today with this feature they ran on.
Yeah, dude, what are we doing?
Oh, hell. So for those that don't know, Alexa Philippou is great women's basketball journalist at ESPN, one of the preeminent reporters in our space. wrote this really great story about Paige Beckers and how the national championship is the last true accolade eluding her. You know,
goodness,
I'm sure you're going to come out there and be like, all right, coming for the belt now. Especially now with JuJu hurt. I thought the timing of the story, I don't know if that was pre-planned to have it. And typically story like big features like that is like it's scheduled to go out on this day. And you kind of ride the ebbs and flows of what happens in the news cycle around it. But I feel like I saw a little bit of like, oh, here, you know, they're so quick to Great White Hope Paige and put JuJu.
Yeah, I don't think that was the case here.
Like, I mean, on some level, sure. I think that's more of a talk show talking point. Like that's a first take thing more than anything else, because they walk in a meeting every morning and say, what are we going to talk about today? But for these longer form, you know, and I say it as someone who writes long form myself, like you have a date and a deadline where that stuff goes out. You don't hold it. Or push it out earlier or write it overnight, you know, because JuJu got hurt all of a sudden. Now, you know, AZ's confirmed to come back next year. Paige has played great. Jenna El-Alfi, even during Ramadan, man. And it was a really great article, too, about how UConn players are helping her out with making her breakfast and stuff while she's fasting during Ramadan. But they just look so complete right now. It's the best UConn team that they've had in a really, really long time. I'd be shocked if they went out early like this. But I do think Oklahoma has all the tools to stay close. And I think Raven Beers is the great equalizer. Plus, you know, there's a little transfer portal recruiting chicanery with UConn and Oklahoma, and then the Sooners coming in late. So there might, I don't know who wants the revenge game more there. If it's Gino, because we know Gino is petty. Shouts to Arike Ogunbowale, or if Reagan Beers,
it's probably Gino. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I'll tell you this. It's gonna take Oklahoma's best. I don't think that's any question, because I mean, especially if Paige Beckers is playing like she just did in that last home game. Goodness gracious, tying her career high. I mean, with the efficiency, like, come on. I mean, that was Paige like at her best. I'll tell you the thing that stuck out to me this weekend, especially, is Skylar Vann, who was co-Big 12 Player of the Year last year. And this year, so just to kind of take it back and what my expectations were, I had voted Skylar Vann all SEC second team preseason, because I thought what we were going to get this entire season is what we got this weekend. And that is the player that I feel like complements Reagan Beers perfectly at the 4. The ability to space the floor, the ability to hit the mid-range, to go in and play in the post and help with rebounding and boxing out. And like it is, to me, like one of the most just seamless like transfer combinations of a player that has been here and it's in our 5th year. You slot in a new player next to them and it just works perfectly. Now, the statistics and like the volume of production and things like that haven't been what I had anticipated for Skylar Vann, just putting it frank, like this season. But this weekend, it was. And Reagan Beers, it's a foul trouble in the Iowa game and everything, so the production wasn't as high, but like that was there. Like that was working. It was just purely a foul trouble thing and just like a minutes and balancing that out. It works. And so if you have 2 bigs against UConn, that's where it intrigues me. If you have 2 bigs that are playing, you know, at conference player of the year level that we've seen both of these players play at for like, you know, at different times in their career, that's where it gets intriguing to me, because like that's where I don't know, like can UConn immediately match up with 2 bigs that are successful? Then you have depth that we haven't had before at OU. The tallest person on the bench for the past 4 years at Oklahoma was Jenny Baranczyk. So like to have this now, you have a Liz Scott coming off the bench. You have a Beatrice Colleton coming off the bench. You have additional size that Oklahoma just never had. And we've seen a lot of 2 big lineups this year. And that intrigues me. And I think Skylar Vann is a player that is also able to kind of balance out when you're guarding Sarah Strong. Like Skylar Vann isn't some like incredible lockdown defender. That's not like how I peg her, but she's a big that can get out to the perimeter. And not many, while not giving up the rebounding aspect of Oklahoma, because you saw Reagan Beers down there. Not many teams have that luxury of being able to kind of not worry about the give and take as much there. Because this Oklahoma team just combined for 130 rebounds over the course of 2 games. 130. And Jenny was like, that's a lot of missed shots. But I'm like, that's a lot of rebounding. Okay, like, you know, like that's like there's team, like they set the NCAA record in round 1 for rebounds in a single game. So like this is a team that is willing to attack the boards, that has the size, that has the talent, has the shooting, but ultimately is it going to be like, even with all that, it's still UConn. And that's still Paige Beckers. That's still Sarah Strong. That's still, so like, to me, I see the lane that Oklahoma can win this game. And I think it's a viable lane. I think it is a realistic lane, but it's just a lane while UConn might have a highway of ways to win this game. And that's the thing for me where it's like, you have to still go and beat UConn. But I'm looking at Peyton Verhulst to be able to hit from deep. I'm looking at Zaya Van, who's also a freshman, who I've loved her energy down the stretch here coming off the bench. And how could she match with KK Arnold in that role? Because we just saw KK Arnold come in and change the game against South Dakota State, and Paige kind of took it and ran with it. But it was KK Arnold that switched that energy up initially. So if Oklahoma can take some punches and punch back, and honestly, to a point, not be afraid of the UConn aura that we've seen at times, whether it be South Carolina. I know that's a point you've made plenty.
About to say
if they are ready for this game and they come in prepared to win this game and not afraid of playing UConn and the Brand and Gino and Pay, if they're not afraid, they can win this basketball game. And there's a lot of ifs to go around for an Oklahoma win, but there are ifs that to me are plausible ifs. Maybe not likely, but plausible. That's where I'm at with it.
So I'm going to name you all 16 teams.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you which teams have at least one killer in my eyes mentally on them.
Mm-hmm.
Kayleen Smeichel at Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Pick any South Carolina player. Malaysia Full-Wiley first and foremost. Like and I'm talking about people who want the ball late. Like, get out of my way. I'm winning this game. I don't care how I am doing this for us. Malaysia. LSU's got like 3
for sure
in Flage, Michaela Williams, and you could put Anissa Moore on that list too, but also Kaylin Gilbert. Isaiah James for NC State, Sanaya Rivers for NC State, Madison Scott for Ole Miss. I think Lauren Betts is UCLA's. I don't know if they have like a perimeter shooter. I don't know if I'd put Kiki Rice in that tier, but you have Lauren Betts. Notre Dame's got Hannah Hidalgo first and foremost. TCU's got Haley Van Lith. Tennessee's got Talasia Cooper. I don't know who Texas has. That's a big question. Why that's upset watch for me. UConn's got Paige. K-State's got Serena Sundell. USC's got Kiki Iriafen. Who has it on Oklahoma?
I'll tell you.
There's 3 teams. Them, UNC, Duke are the 3 where I'm like, who is your killer?
I think that's fair.
At this point in the year, I feel like I should know your killer. And I don't know Oklahoma's killer. And I think that's the only thing that maybe Peyton Verhulst, I guess, would be closest. So do you think?
So the 2 names popped in my head when and I think that's a valid critique. I don't think you're off with that. But if I was to put names, Peyton Verhulst is willing to take the shot, if nothing else. And I will say, honestly, not this year, and this is where kind of the point I was making with Skylar Van getting back to form. Skylar Van has been a go-to player down the stretch in her junior year, her senior year for Oklahoma. Like they have run plays where it's like you have, even if you take it back, even like you had Taylor Robertson, one of the greatest shooter of all time, one of the greatest shooters of all time. You had Maddie Williams on the court, like legit, bona fide all conference players. And they were going to Skylar Van in those years. And so like, that's where, like, when I go to if I'm drawing up the play, I mean, obviously, Reagan Beers is Reagan Beers, but like, you haven't really seen like the killer, like in that, I feel like at all times. So I think that's if I'm ranking it, Oklahoma doesn't have like the standout, like Paige. Oh, it's Paige. Yes. Oh, it's, so I agree with you on that.
Well, and I think the way I define killer too is there's players that you draw it up for because you know that they're the best player that can score. A killer is the person in the huddle being like, nah, fuck that. Draw it up for me.
I think that's Peyton Verhulst. Okay. I think Peyton Verhulst, also just the ability to score from anywhere. Like, I think that's a major part of it. But like,
and she's hit big shots in clutch.
She hits some FU shots like fairly frequently, whether it's like the fadeaways from mid range that she'll hit randomly, the super deep three. Like, she kind of has like any FU shot you could think of. She kind of has it in her bag. So like, if it gets down to that, I in my head, if I was like pick one player, I'm going to Peyton Verhulst. Now have we seen like the buzzer beater of the game, like the super dagger like this season? I don't feel like there's been a ton of opportunities, honestly, like just in the way that games have played out. So like I I agree with you. Like, I don't feel like we've like directly seen it this season, but I think if it came down to it, Peyton Verhulst is a player that you can turn to in that moment, and she just has the ability to shoot over people, to shoot contested shots, to shoot from anywhere, and have kind of the FU quality to it. But
and just as one final thought, it's not necessarily like a critique on a team if they don't have one. Like we are at the point in the year where damn near everyone that's still alive has one because that's why they're here, is because they have one. And this is the period of time, as a closing thought, like sometimes this is when you find out who the killers are.
Exactly.
And so even if Oklahoma or UNC or Duke don't have one that I see now, like, Duke has an argument for a Toby Fournier or an Ashlyn Jackson. UNC has an argument for a Lexi Dinarski, type player. But this is the time now where we find out who the killers are. Like, killers grow into their roles in this tournament at this point in the exercise. And so I'm excited to see if we get any of that, because that's what makes March. I
was just about to say that is exactly like it's the unsuspecting players that normally have the best stories in March. So I'm excited for it. I'm nervous, but I'm kind of happy to be here. I'm just what a week to be in Oklahoma. This many things have never happened. Good things in a row have ever happened in the state of Oklahoma. So this is pretty awesome. But no, I'm excited for these games. We'll have boots on the ground in Birmingham. Shawnee will have boots on the ground. We are going to be live. If there's games on, we're live that night to break down every single game. So, this entire weekend, we got another full slate of games. So we will be live every single day at their games. And then this all leads to us putting boots on the ground in Tampa Bay for the Final Four. So we are with you all the way, the entire road to March. We've been live every night so far. We will be live every night going forward when they are games. So make sure you're tapped in, subscribe here on the YouTube. Andrew, I don't know if you knew this. You know, over 50% of our viewership aren't subscribed.
Sounds like some folks are lacking, Tyler.
Oh my goodness. So make sure you're subscribed and clicking the bell so you're notified whenever we go live. You're not going to want to miss out on this. This is the home stretch. Of course, no cap space, WBB.com as well. Andrew's been doing the daily previews. We've had a bunch of content coming out from the written side. Shawnee's going to be pumping a bunch of stuff out to the website with boots on the ground as well. Now is the perfect time to go and subscribe, whether it's free or paid. There's going to be so much content coming your way from the no cap space, WBB.com website. So make sure you're tapped in across all platforms. Be ready. Now it's about to get even madder in March, and I'm very excited for it. So stay tapped in with us here at No Cap Space, and we'll see you next time.